It all started one rainy April afternoon. I was playing video games with my brother. We shared a gaming console we had gotten for Christmas the year before. We were playing a popular fighting game, the original of what would become a long-running series, and as usual, Matthew was kicking my ass with his favorite character, one which had been his one and only choice ever since we first played it. Over time, I began to get frustrated with him, or more so, my own lack of ability to beat him. He had beaten me every single time, and at the point my frustration had reached a boiling point. I got so angry that I unplugged and threw my controller directly at his face, smashing his left eye. I froze cold as he cried out in pain, tears and blood gushed from his face, like an asymmetrical water fountain that flowed clear on one side and red on the other. Our mother ran in to see what the problem was and let out a loud shriek when she saw Matthew's bloodied face. She yelled at me and slapped me hard in the face, knocking me to the floor. I watched, tears falling from my eyes now, as she picked him up and rushed him out the door, putting him in the backseat of the car and proceeded to speed away to the hospital. My father sent me to my room, smacking me on the back of the head as I ran off. I laid in my bed crying, waiting for them to come home, until the phone rang. My father answered, and after a little while, I heard him begin to sob. I went to see what was wrong, and he was just sitting on the floor, the phone dangling from its cord on the wall. His face was buried into his hands as he wailed so loud that it shook my bones. My mother had been in such a panic to get Matthew to the hospital before he lost his eye, that she ended up causing a horrible car accident that killed Matthew instantly. The many people from other cars involved in the wreck lost their lives as well. She suffered from many broken bones and a concussion, but managed to survive. It was all my fault. If I had not thrown the controller, if I had not reacted like a whiny, spoiled brat, Matthew never would have gotten hurt. Our mother never would have been so panicked, never would have wrecked the car, and Matthew would still be alive. Mother never would have been sentenced to prison for the deaths of those innocent souls. My father would not have sent me away to live with my mother's sister because he couldn't stomach to look at me anymore. Years passed and I became a pariah in my family. Nobody wanted anything to do with me, and my aunt barely tolerated me. That didn't stop me from living my life, however. I continued to go to school, even got a scholarship to a prestigious college. My interest in video games, however, died with my brother. In my mid-20s, the company I worked for gave away incentives to their employees during the holiday season for perfect attendance, good performance, etc. My name was entered into a raffle to receive a mystery prize, and, to my surprise, I won the latest popular video game console. It instantly reminded me of Matthew, and at first, I wanted nothing to do with it, but I took it anyway. By this point, I was married and had a son, so I decided I would give it to him as a Christmas present. No point in wasting such an expensive piece of technology, right? My son loved his video game console and even convinced me to play with them. Eventually, my enjoyment of gaming came back, and I decided it was time to move on from the past and enjoy the future with my son. We played together so much, it became a major bonding tool for us. Eventually, I bought a console for myself and set it up in my bedroom for some late night gaming while he and my wife slept. I began to play it for a couple hours every night and eventually discovered online gaming. I created an account and found a game that I at first hesitated at when I saw it. It was the latest installment of the video game that Matthew and I played as children. I decided to buy it and play online. As expected, I was no good at first. Many other players were significantly better than I was. After a while, however, I began to improve my skill and become a decent player. One day, I got a friend request from an online stranger. The gamertag was BroMatt0493. I stared for a moment. Sure, it could have just been some guy named Matt, but it was the 0493 that froze me. Matthew died in April in 1993, so this was just bizarre to me. Eventually, I just chalked it up to some coincidence and thought, why not? I accepted the friend request and we started our first match. Of course, BroMatt0493 chose to play as the same character that Matthew would play, and even kicked my ass just like Matthew would. Again, I assumed this was just some coincidence. Now, the unique thing about the game series is that at the end of the match, the winner would kill the loser, whether it was just beating them to death or full-blown murdering them with swords, guns, etc. In our first match, BroMatt0493's character burned mine alive. After the match was over, he disconnected from the server, so I logged off and called it a night. The next day, I got a call from my aunt. We hadn't spoken in years, but she said that she felt that I had the right to know. My father's house had caught fire, and he died trapped inside. I attended the funeral, but even the rest of the family were distant to me. I even saw my mother, who was able to attend on furlough, but she looked at me, said nothing, and looked the other way. A couple of months later, I saw bro Matt0493 log on. I sent him a private message asking him where he had been, but he never replied. He simply initiated a match. Once again he beat me, this time his character impaling and then hanging mine. Once again, he disconnected from the server. The next day I got a call from my aunt, same as months prior. She was crying as she spoke, telling me that my mother was murdered in prison. A prisoner had stabbed her and then hung her in her cell. I dropped the phone and sat down. This couldn't be a coincidence. Both of my parents were now dead, killed in the same ways my characters would die against bro Matt0493. As ridiculous as it sounded at first, I knew, deep down, that there was a connection. For months, I logged on every night looking for bro Matt0493 to log on. I searched for his gamertag on the internet in case he had any social media accounts with the same tag. Nothing. I asked around on online forums if anyone knew anyone with his gamertag. Nothing. Finally, one day he appeared. I messaged him, demanding he tell me the truth. Was he my brother? Had he survived the accident somehow? Where had he been all these years? Why did no one know? And most importantly, why and how did he kill our parents? Suddenly a mic icon appeared next to his name. He began to speak, and it was Matthew's voice, the same child's voice from all those years ago. He informed me that we would play one last match. If I lost, another family member would die. If I refused, I would die. But if I beat him, he would leave me alone. Our match began and I put everything into it. I never took a video game match so seriously before in my life, not even all those years ago when I started this nightmare. It seemed hopeless, but with one sliver of my life bar remaining, I did it. I beat him. For the first time ever, I beat him. And now the nightmare would end. When it was time to deliver the killing blow, however, I did nothing. I let his character fall dead on his own, worried that by actively killing him, someone else would die in the same exact way. He logged off, and that was the last time I had heard from him. Years passed and I thought the nightmare was over, but I think I was very wrong. My son is a lot older now, and so he plays a lot more mature video games these days, including the newest installment of the same fighting game series. This was never an issue for me until last night. I walked in on him playing against a player named Uncle Matt0493. To my horror, he lost, his character being brutally beaten to death to a bloody and unrecognizable pulp.